What's plaguing many national chains and mom-and-pop shops in Canada is a difficult task of understanding which direction to take when choosing cutlery once single-use plastic ban is in full force. Buckle up, folks, because we're going to do a deep dive into the actual technical guidelines of the SUP mandate, specifically dealing with cutlery, or as my colleague in Brazil would say, Cutlery. And why focus on Cutlery today? Because I'm super excited to introduce to you a brand new material of cutlery that is accepted under the federal ban based on the definitions that we're going to go through, and why it's going to be your favorite material too. Good day, folks. My name is Elesh P, and you're watching Food Packaging TV, where we bring you the latest, in innovation. That's, of course, industry news, always. And, of course, food packaging such as cutlery. Now, let's do this thing, shall we? We shall. We shall. Whether you attended the City of Toronto webinar held by the ECCC or are planning to register for the upcoming Restaurants Canada webinar on the SUP prohibition, the information should be the same regarding what is and what is not accepted under the federal ban. But before we continue, I wish to acknowledge that we're pulling this information from the Government of Canada website, and by no means am I or Food Packaging TV providing any legal advice, but rather our expert opinion based on the Government of Canada Single-Use Plastic Prohibition Regulations Technical Guidelines. As I noted earlier today, we're going to discuss two main aspects today. Firstly, we're going to break down the technical guidelines surrounding the single-use cutlery prohibition to give you more clear ordinance as to how you ought to proceed. And secondly, I'm going to tell you about the most incredible story of a new type of material and cutlery that you can start to ask for. So let's start off with part one, honing in on section B.2 from the technical guideline. I left a link on the technical guidelines in the description below, which you can follow. This concerns the regulation around single-use plastic cutlery. Let's begin with section B.2.1, items covered by this definition. So the regulations define SUP cutlery as a plastic manufactured item made entirely or in part from plastic that is formed in the shape of a fork, knife, spoon, spork, chopstick, and that contains polystyrene or polyethylene or changes its physical properties after being run through an electrically operated household dishwasher 100 times. SUP cutlery has typically been made from polystyrene or polyethylene. However, there are other types of plastics that may be also available, such as polypropylene. According to the guidelines, they've stated that in some instances, SUP cutlery has been made from polylactic acid, which is PLA. However, it is likely that the items made out of PLA would not be able to withstand the performance criteria in the regulations and would therefore be prohibited. In other words, the assumption is that materials such as PLA would not be able to meet the criteria of running through an electrically operated home dishwasher 100 times without losing changes to its physical properties. They're not totally wrong to make this claim on PLA. However, when you crystallize PLA, it has greater tolerances to heat and breakage, and thus I specifically happen to know firsthand that there are vendors that have put the CPLA to the test in a third-party lab and have successfully proven that they can meet the criteria. We'll come back to this point later in the video. Moving on to section B.2.2, plastic cutlery not prohibited by the regulations. So that is any plastic cutlery not made from polystyrene or polyethylene and is considered to be reusable that does not change its physical properties after being washed in an electrically operated household dishwasher 100 times, right? So let's talk about this. Going back to our CPLA material, which is not polystyrene or polyethylene and has passed the dishwasher test, is considered reusable. So by this definition, CPLA cutlery with the proper reusable certifications are not prohibited. This means the following types of cutleries can continue to be manufactured, imported, and sold, provided they meet the performance criteria as defined: reusable cutlery made from thick plastic other than polystyrene and polyethylene. That's it. Any questions so far? Clear as mud? Okay, now that we've established what type of cutlery can be continued to be manufactured or imported and sold into the marketplace, which is again, reusable cutlery made out of thick plastic other than polystyrene and polyethylene. So now let's get into part two. Let's talk about the greatest story ever told, and I'm going to be directing this story to Mr. Axel Schwan, President of Tim Hortons Canada United States, and Latin America. Because what I have to share ought to belong to you, Mr. Axel. Everyone knows what Tim Hortons sells, don't we? Of course, it's their famous brew of coffee. So typically, in order for an operation such as Tim Hortons to keep control over their robust taste and flavor profile of their coffee blends, they have roasting facilities that will roast coffee beans and send out the blends to individual stores. But what happens to the coffee beans after they've been roasted? Because now, those roasted beans are considered biomass, which is a natural product that has already been consumed and is at the end of its life cycle and can now be either thrown out as organic waste or picked up by a pig farm for feed. Mr. Axel, what if I told you that this biomass was picked up, treated, turned into a biocomposite material right here in Ontario? And what if I told you that this particular biocomposite material has been under development in conjunction with the University of Guelph for the past 10 years, and along with the factory has achieved 2 stellar biocomposite materials that achieve the following results. 1. The first biocomposite profile yields a fully BPI certified industrial compostable material, and B, is tested as reusable. The second biocomposite formula is also BPI certified industrial compostable, home compostable, backyard compostable, meaning it'll go into your municipal green bin, and marine degradable. All right, so now we have this wonderful biocomposite material made from Tim Hortons' biomass. What happens next? Well, then it's shipped off to a facility in Toronto, Ontario, where it's converted into these beautiful, stunning pieces of cutlery that behave like plastic. And the best part is, it's all locally sourced, all locally manufactured, made in Canada. I find more companies are more anxious to find local manufacturing setup instead of worrying about freight, lead time, spikes in freight rates, downtime of factories due to overseas electricity quotas, or even closures of the ports due to epidemic breaks. And all for what? Enormous containers full of wooden or bamboo pieces of Cutlery that takes up massive storage, ties up cash flow, and ends up leaving you feeling like you just stuck a tongue depressor in your mouth? I mean, there's always the possibility of getting a splint of wood in your lip or tongue, and what to speak about its functionality. The fork is sometimes a hit or miss on piercing a simple piece of lettuce, and the spoon is so flat that it can barely carry any reasonable amount of quantity worthy of it to be called spoonful. I believe when you compare the options that are out in the market, you want to look for an option that will give you the greatest mileage from its end-to-end usage. And that's exactly what the coffee biocomposite material will do for you, Mr. Axel, and anyone else looking to make this change to choose a true sustainable option. So let's recap the details. Number 1, SUP ban requirement, check. Biocomposite material is not made from polystyrene or polyethylene, and it meets the reusability criteria. The second iteration of the formula will go straight into your green bin, taking it right out of the landfill waste channel. Number 2, it's made in Canada, check. Raw material is locally sourced. The biomass, which is the natural material that's already been consumed and that's at the end of its life cycle, so no cutting down trees or bamboo shoots. The biocomposite is converted locally in Toronto, so no more tying up your warehouse space for container loads of inventory, no more tying up your cash flow for large container load orders, no more worrying about fluctuating freight rates affecting your profit margins, and no more worrying about delayed freight at the ports or long lead times. And 3, it performs and functions like its plastic counterpart. Check. And in the spirit of the single-use plastic ban, finding a true sustainable product that is not plastic and that just so happens to have a very unique circular story is exactly what you need and what this product achieves. To set up a meeting to get more information regarding the manufacturing of this biocomposite material or the conversion, please feel free to get in touch with me directly by dropping me a line at foodpackagingtv@gmail.com, or anyone from the Enkay team, who is the exclusive distributor for this coffee bean biocomposite, Cutlery. And they'll be happy to assist you in getting you all the information that you require. I've left the contact details for Enkay's team in the description below. And if you don't already know this, Enkay is our family business that is specialized in eco-friendly products. And it would be our humble pleasure to serve you with your sustainable requirements, because together, we are the difference. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of Food Packaging TV. My name is Elesh P. Thank you for joining me. Next week, we're going to go into the single-use plastic food serviceware and talk about its technical guidelines and tell you the new options that are available for you. Please feel free to subscribe, like, share, and comment letting me know your thoughts on the wooden or bamboo cutlery, Cutlery. Is it yay or is it nay? Be good, be safe, be blessed. Peace out.